Upon seeing Iji's martial spirit, Cumberland's eyes widened in fear, and his body began to tremble. He could not believe that Iji was so powerful. Compared to Iji's martial spirit, Cumberland seemed like a simple ant. While the spirit was staring at Cumberland with a curious gaze, Iji called the insect and asked what he was going to do now. Cumberland began to observe the spirit in silence, not knowing what to do. Just before he could plan his next move, the spirit caught his body using its hand. Upon noticing this, Cumberland's eyes widened in surprise and confusion, knowing that now he was in danger. While Iji's body was surrounded by martial energy, he approached Cumberland, and while his eyes were shining with arrogance, with a smile he asked if someone like Cumberland really dared to challenge him. He was like a mantis trying to stop a moving carriage. The attention of the poor martial saint Cumberland was fixed on Iji, and he could not help but tremble and sweat in fear. Iji's eyes widened with evil, and with a demonic smile he decided to repeat it once more. In 3 days he wanted all level 8 or higher warriors on the planet to come and worship him. Furthermore, he also wanted all the valuable resources of the planet. Cumberland's face filled with sweat, making him panic. He didn't know what to do now since he was no match for a monster like him. With a furious gaze, the martial saints couldn't help but clench their fists and teeth tightly. They couldn't believe that Cumberland had been captured. Just then, Iji's martial spirit began to squeeze Cumberland forcefully. Upon feeling this, his eyes began to shine with desperation, knowing that he had no way of doing anything about it. Not long after, Cumberland opened his mouth and began to scream in agony. Iji showed no mercy, and his martial spirit squeezed Cumberland's body, making it explode into pieces. Iji's eyes began to shine with joy, and with a smile he made it clear that if they did not fulfill his wishes within 3 days, the same fate would await the planet and its inhabitants. Upon seeing this, the eyes of the black-haired martial saint filled with fear, and he could not help but sweat, as he could not believe that Cumberland had been annihilated in an instant. The man with a beard extended his hands and with a nervous gaze began to scream like a madman. Knowing that this was the end, the Lion Country was lost. At the same time in the dream space, the battle was fierce with Wang He and Duan Yifeng staring at each other, while their bodies were releasing powerful martial energy. Lu Sheng's attention was fixed on them. Our boy began to observe them silently. Yang Yizhuo, who was standing next to him, began to touch his chin with a curious expression and with a smile mentioned that the confrontation between those two level 15 powerhouses was about to conclude. Upon hearing Yang Yizhuo's voice, Lu Sheng came out of his thoughts and his attention focused on the old man. While his eyes were shining with seriousness, he began to observe Wang He and Duan Yifeng and realized that their divine domains had been annihilated. He did not know if this was the end of the battle. Not long after, both descended gracefully in front of Lu Sheng. With a serene gaze, Wang He mentioned that they had already shown enough of their power and decided that now it was Lu Sheng's turn. With a cheerful expression, Duan Yifeng adjusted his hat with his finger and nodded. Our boy's eyes filled with confusion and surprise, and upon thinking calmly, he realized that they had done all this for him. Duan Yifeng and Wang He remained silent. While his eyes were shining with seriousness, Lu Sheng extended his hands and concentrated, making 2 stars appear, one made of fire and another green one made of scales. A phoenix appeared in the fire star and a dragon appeared in the green star. Lu Sheng began to observe them attentively and his eyes started to shine with confusion. He didn't know why there always had to be a winner and a loser, nor why it couldn't be attempted for both to coexist. With a sincere gaze, Wang He made it clear that Lu Sheng's idea was not going to work, since his path and Duan Yifeng's were both supreme paths, dominant and violent. They could not coexist under the same heaven. With a serious expression, Duan Yifeng nodded his head. Lu Sheng began to gaze toward the ground and thought that they were right. Then he raised his head, and while his eyes were shining with determination, he mentioned that they could try to create a 3rd star. Our boy gathered the stars and concentrated, causing blue energy to emerge from it. With a serious gaze, he asked what would happen if he found a smooth path that could balance these 2 supreme and dominant paths. With a cheerful expression, Lu Sheng focused and began to summon a drop of water since he thought that water could be the most suitable. Using his power, he fused the drop of water with the star and a glacier began to form within it. Lu Sheng made his move and, in an instant, a blue star appeared, a world completely covered by oceans and glaciers. It didn't take long before the star suddenly fractured, and from it slowly emerged a small turtle. The star broke like a shell and an adorable turtle appeared. Lu Sheng extended his hand and the turtle began to float on it. Our boy's eyes started to shine with joy. He called the little turtle Xuanwu and mentioned that it was the first turtle born in this stellar region. Once the turtle turned around, it saw Wang He's powerful phoenix and Duan Yifeng's dragon. The Jinwoo and the dragon approached, looking curiously at Xuanwu. It was the first time these three creatures met. Wang He's attention was fixed on them. With a serious gaze, he made it clear that this is nothing more than a distraction. Water and fire were incompatible. Soon they would begin a new round of confrontations. Lu Sheng, who was controlling the three creatures, began to gaze towards Yang Yizhuo with a curious expression. Yang Yizhuo closed his eyes and began to show a smile. The phoenix approached the turtle and began to roar with rage, leaving it somewhat confused. With a serene gaze, Lu Sheng asked Wang He not to rush since new conflicts would always attract new forces to resolve them. The fourth star was going to join the battlefield. Wang He began to observe carefully and his eyes widened in surprise. He could not believe that there was a fourth star. The eyes of Duan Yifeng, who had his arms crossed, were filled with curiosity, while Lu Sheng's eyes were shining with joy. He extended his hand to one side and a green star began to manifest in his hand. The surface of the small star began to crack. When it touches the ground it becomes wood. In the sky it is a phoenix. This is the star of wind and forest. Once the star broke into pieces, a powerful white tiger appeared, which began to roar. The creatures began to observe each other with curiosity. With the arrival of the white tiger, the tension between the Jinwoo and the Xuanwu was immediately relieved. The Jinwoo enjoyed being close to the white tiger, and it naturally wanted to play with the Xuanwu, creating a rather harmonious atmosphere. While they were playing, the crystal dragon was watching from afar and seemed to feel a little lonely. Lu Sheng began to observe the little dragon carefully and with a cheerful expression decided not to forget about it and revealed that it was time to look for a new companion for it. Lu Sheng concentrated his energy on his finger and his energy began to form a new orange-colored star. From this star was born a small and adorable earth killin. Just as Lu Sheng had anticipated, the crystal dragon seemed to feel a natural affinity for the earth killin, approaching it frequently and willingly. The small earth killin, cheerful and enthusiastic, followed the Jinwoo everywhere. Although the Jinwoo did not find this very amusing and seemed to be somewhat furious, Lu Sheng extended his hand and using his power enclosed all the creatures within a barrier of energy. With a confident gaze he made it clear that this was how a perfect cycle was born. The attention of Wang He and Duan Yifeng focused on the creatures and their eyes widened in surprise and confusion. With a kind smile, our boy explained that this star region had completely entered into a state of harmony. 5 forces balanced and propelled each other, almost eliminating conflicts. With a serious expression, Duan Yifeng made it clear that this did not matter since human forces had limits and how could Lu Sheng, alone, cultivate the 5 level 15 paths. Wang He began to gaze towards Lu Sheng and with a serene expression admitted that Duan Yifeng was right. Reaching the maximum level in a single path was already difficult, and trying with 5 was excessive greed. Wanting to grasp too much was a vain illusion. Duan Yifeng began to show a smile and nodded his head. With a lost expression, Lu Sheng began to gaze towards the ground in silence. Then he concentrated and a new star began to manifest in the middle of his hands. With his eyes closed, Lu Sheng brought his hands together, crushing the new star. Upon seeing this, Wang He's eyes filled with fear and surprise. He did not know how Lu Sheng had been able to destroy with his own hands everything that had cost him so much effort to create. Duan Yifeng's jaw dropped in surprise. According to him, this was like a painter throwing his masterpiece into the fire to watch it burn. While energy was emerging from Lu Sheng's hands, our boy began to gaze toward the ground. Yang Yizhuo, who was standing behind, remained silent. His eyes widened with joy and he couldn't help but sweat. He was in shock at seeing what Lu Sheng was trying to do. With eyes shining with joy, Lu Sheng turned to the old man and with a smile asked if this counted as a correct answer. Yang Yizhuo began to touch his chin and with a smile said that Lu Sheng was going in the right direction. What remained now was to keep moving forward. Wang He took a step forward and with a confused gaze questioned what Lu Sheng had done just a moment ago. He thought he had given up. Yang Yizhuo closed his eyes and with a smile made it clear that there was no need to ask. That answer made no sense for them to know. It would only create frustration. Upon hearing this, Duan Yifeng's mind filled with confusion. He began to look at Lu Sheng and with a curious expression began to ponder. Seeing this, Lu Sheng started looking down at the ground in silence, while Yang Yizhuo began showing a proud smile. While Lu Sheng's eyes were shining with joy, he began to gaze at his hand and could not help but smile. This game, for him, had been of immense value. From this moment on, his destiny and his martial path had completely changed. Lu Sheng clenched his fist and a confident smile spread across his face. The last answer that Yang Yizhuo had confirmed was a goal that neither Wang He nor Duan Yifeng had managed to reach. It was the path towards level 16.